Next week, MSPs will vote on the Government's Victims Bill. And during my time here, I've tried to help crime victims whose suffering is far too often compounded by a justice system that is slow, secretive and unjust. My party has campaigned to give victims a meaningful voice and greater rights to basic information. We've campaigned to end the not proven verdict, which is in the bill, and it's welcome that John Swinney listened to our concerns about the plan to remove juries from some trials, which has now been dropped. The Government has shifted its position on the Victims Bill, and we truly welcome that, but they haven't gone far enough. Does John Swinney really think this bill will make a material difference to victims?
First Minister.
Yes, I do, Presiding Officer, and that has been because of the very careful engagement that has been taken forward by the Justice Secretary in taking this bill through Parliament. Mr Findlay and I spent some time when I was on the back benches, and as he was, scrutinising this bill when it came to Parliament. Much of the evidence we heard during that process persuaded me that when I became First Minister, there had to be changes made to the bill, and that was because the Government listened to the evidence that was put in front of us. We will continue to do that, and many of the proposals and reforms that have been suggested in the bill are designed to achieve the objective that Mr Findlay has put to me, which is to make sure that the interests of victims are better protected by our justice system. And I'm confident that the bill, after the scrutiny that Parliament gives it next week, will be in a position to do so.
Russell Findlay.
Thank you. Liz Shanks campaigns for victims' rights since her truly horrific domestic violence ordeal featured in a BBC documentary. We agree with her that all crime victims should be told, must be told, when secretive plea deals are struck in criminal cases. And to be fair, the Government has given some ground on plea deals, but their changes fall far short of what is needed. Now, Liz and the other women met with the Justice Secretary, who appeared to say all of the right things. But this is what Liz told me today. They're pretending to listen, but crime victims will continue to be badly let down by this bill, which could have done so much more. So for the sake of Liz and all other victims, will John Swinney back my plea deal amendments?
First Minister.
The first thing I want to say is I want to pay tribute to the courage of women such as Liz Shanks, because it's invariably women who have had to come forward with the courage to talk about their experience to ensure that victims are more central to the criminal justice system. And I know that the Justice Secretary has engaged substantively on all of these issues. We have amendments in front of us in Parliament on Tuesday, and the Government will consider all of the amendments that are submitted to come to the right conclusion. But I do provide the assurance to Parliament and to Liz Shanks that we have listened to the opinions that have been expressed to us. We have brought forward changes to the bill, and the Government is absolutely committed to ensuring that the voice of victims is central to the way in which the criminal justice system proceeds.
Russell Findlay.
Of course, the engagement is welcome, but it has to be meaningful. And plea deals aren't the only part of the bill that don't do what it should. My colleague Liam Kerr has submitted an amendment that would instigate a Scottish grooming gangs inquiry. While we believe there should be a full public inquiry, our amendment would at least guarantee an investigation. These predatory criminals raped vulnerable girls, and the Government should want to properly examine this scandal, but have so far been resistant. So will John Swinney fix the bill so that it gives grooming gang victims the voice, the inquiry and the justice that they truly deserve?
First Minister.
Of course, has taken a number of very significant steps in this area of policy, not least of which is the establishment of the continuing Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry that is led by Lady Smith, which has been sitting since 2016. And that is, I think, providing the type of welcome and significant scrutiny that is required on this issue. There is, of course, separate work underway by Police Scotland and the Crown, exploring individual cases, some of which are the cases that Mr Findlay has raised with me just now, to establish whether there is further detailed scrutiny required on the question of grooming gangs. And I have to say, at this stage, from my reading of the information that I have seen, I'm not persuaded of the necessity of that further inquiry. But the work is underway in Police Scotland and the Crown to advise ministers on that point, and we will, of course, consider that and discuss that with Parliament in due course. But I think it is important that I make clear that the criminal justice system has taken very hard, significant action to bring people to account for utterly unacceptable behaviour, and that will remain the case.
Russell Findlay.
The truth is the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry won't look at the grooming gangs, nor does it even look at the industrial scale abuse in Scottish football. This bill could give victims real transparency over plea deals. It could give victims much greater involvement in the parole process. It could put a spotlight on the grooming gangs scandal. It could do so much more, but it doesn't. It won't meaningfully change the justice system. It's a letdown for victims. If he wants to support victims and of my party, then John Swinney must do more. We could back a bill that makes a real difference, but as it stands, this is a victims' law in name only. So will John Swinney listen to victims, show some ambition and make more changes before next week's vote?
First Minister.
I don't for one moment in any way want to give a signal to Parliament that I am wanting to do anything in this bill that does not address the legitimate concerns of victims about our criminal justice system. That's why the Government has brought forward the bill. I had the privilege of sitting and hearing evidence in the Criminal Justice Committee when I was on the back benches. As a result of listening to victims, I came into office as First Minister and, working with the Justice Secretary, have revised this bill to make sure that the interests of victims are ever more central to the bill. So I do not accept the characterisation of the bill that Mr Findlay has put to me. Now, there are legitimate issues which will be brought forward that people will want to press the Government about. That is entirely appropriate parliamentary scrutiny, and I welcome that. But what I have to say to Parliament is that this Government has brought forward legislation to do exactly what is required in the criminal justice system just now, and that is to put the voice of victims more centrally into the criminal justice system, and I am confident that the bill that Parliament considers next week will do exactly that.